Minister, the problem of vacant teaching posts has been growing year on year under your watch. It is now a problem that is out of control, with 800 vacant teaching posts at primary level and 2/3 of secondary schools with unfilled vacancies. Special schools and deaf schools in the Dublin area are suffering the most due to the housing and cost of living crisis. What are you and the government going to do about it?
Thank you very much, Deputy. Ensuring that every child's experience in school is positive and that they have qualified, engaged teachers available to support them in their learning is a priority. Budget 24 in particular contains a number of measures that demonstrate commitment to continued investment in our education system. In addition to numerous actions that have been taken in recent years to address teacher supply, a number of very specific and targeted measures will be introduced with the new funding provided. Professional Masters of Education, the PME incentive scheme, is being introduced for newly qualified teachers graduating in 24. Those newly qualified teachers who graduate with a PME will, subject to some conditions, be eligible for an incentive payment of up to €2,000. Additionally, there will be an expansion in the number of upskilling programmes available. These programmes will increase the number of teachers who are qualified to teach in-demand subjects. These new upskilling programmes include Irish, French, Politics and Society and Computer Science, and they will add to the existing programmes of Physics, Spanish and Maths. Also, an additional 1,000 posts of responsibility are being provided for in the school system for 24-25. These new measures are in addition to other measures, approving 610 additional places on initial teacher education, meeting with the primary initial teacher education providers, and in 23 more than 2,700 student teachers have made themselves available via register of the Teaching Council to provide support to our schools. Continuing the operation of primary substitute teacher panels in 23-24, with 590 teaching posts being allocated there and covering almost 3,000 schools. Encouraging retired teachers to provide substitute cover, and it's interesting to note that more than an increase of more than 49% was noted in terms of retired teachers making themselves available. Removing the restrictions preventing job-sharing teachers or teachers on career break has also been undertaken. And ensuring that post-primary teachers can provide an additional up to 35 hours of substitute cover has also been enacted. The average student per teacher ratio in our primary schools reduced by 10% between 2017 and 2023, the lowest ever seen in our primary schools. Teaching does remain an attractive career. CEO first preference choices for post-primary teaching increased this year by 14%, and that's in addition to the 9% increase that we had last year. So there are many initiatives that are being taken to recognise that there are challenges in some...
Thank you, Minister.
Yeah.
Challenges in some schools or some areas seems to me to be a very significant understatement of the problem. Like I said, the problem is getting worse year on year. 513 of the 809 vacant primary teaching posts nationwide are in Dublin. In my constituency, Dublin 24 has 58 vacancies, Dublin 15 has 35, Dublin 12 has 33, and teachers and principals have written to you warning that this has reached crisis point, that they're tired and worn out from trying to find teachers for the most disadvantaged, most marginalised children. In correspondence to you, they said teachers are moving to schools closer to their homes due to the rising cost of living. Young teachers cannot find accommodation in Dublin. I mean, there's a number of quite simple answers here. Accommodation for key workers like teachers needs to be prioritised. The idea of a Dublin allowance to address the cost of living crisis that is immediately now, of guaranteeing permanent, decent contracts for teachers, and ensuring that young teachers aren't on a lower pay scale, which they're currently set, and recognising the principle of equal pay for equal work.
Thanks very much, Deputy. I would never for 1 minute underestimate the challenge and difficulty that is occurring in some particular areas, and it's more heightened in some areas than it is in others, and I absolutely accept that. And again, I've made the point, we're a country that's at full employment practically. The challenges we're facing in our sector are not unique to our sector. We're seeing them in healthcare, we're seeing them in tourism, we're seeing them in retail, we're seeing them in so many different areas. However, I do want to say to you also, we have 70,000 staff employed by the Department of Education, 70,000. And I think it's important, that's a significant figure. 70,000 being employed by the Department of Education, notwithstanding the very specific and difficult issues that arise in some instances. We have, as I've already said to you, introduced a number of initiatives, whether it's increasing the number of additional places by 610 for initial primary teaching training, 2,700 student teachers being made available, €2,000 bursary for those who wish to take the postgraduate in teaching, 1,000 additional posts of responsibility being put into the system, upskilling free of charge to staff in particular areas, whether it's Irish, French, politics and society, computer science, or adding to the maths, physics and Spanish. So we are not standing still. We are intent on doing all that is necessary, and very happy to keep everything under review in terms of additional and new measures.
Thanks. I mean, there are very, very immediate things that can be done. Some of the obstacles that exist in terms of teachers with qualifications from abroad could be removed. I'll give you another example from St Aidan's Senior National School in Brookfield. A quote from a letter from the Deputy Principal. She says, "Our school was granted permission to open a classroom for our pupils with a mild general learning disability a number of years ago. However, like many schools in Dublin, we have been unable to hire enough teachers, and so we were unable to open this class this year. We were also unable to hire the full complement of SET teachers that we were allocated, and so once again our most vulnerable pupils missed out. These two positions are considered unfilled temporary contracts. The current policy of the Department of Education dictates that we are prohibited from hiring substitute teachers to cover these positions on a short-term basis. It's an unnecessary block to the proper education that our most vulnerable pupils need and deserve, and there is a teacher who regularly subs in our schools who's indicated she will be happy to cover one of these positions for a number of months, but is not able to take on a temporary contract. So an immediate policy of the department is creating an obstacle. We have a teacher who could be taking up a role there. Can that policy, for example, be changed?
Thanks very much. Again, Deputy, I will reiterate to you, and you specifically referenced special education. We have operational almost 3,000 special classes in our system, and I want to make the point that they are classes that are very deliberately kept at a very low rate of 1 teacher, 2 SNAs, 6 students. It's very significant, and in addition to that, we have the pupil-teacher ratio at an historic low of 23:1 in our primary schools. Very significant, which means we've never had as many teachers in the system as we do currently, notwithstanding the specific issues that you have raised. We are very happy to look at flexibilities. We've looked at flexibilities around teachers who train abroad, who can now, if they've trained in an appropriate setting, they can now complete their DRIHID or their first year of qualification. They can actually do that here in Ireland. We've introduce that flexibility. I'm very happy to look at the specific case that you have raised, and I would need further information on that, but if you are happy to share that with me, certainly we're very happy to engage on a one-to-one basis with schools where they have particular challenges as regards staff.